The invitation sat on the kitchen counter for 3 days before Daniel finally picked it up again.
Like home already.
Gold lettering. Elegant. Formal. It didn't feel right. It felt heavy. You're invited to celebrate Sophia's 32nd birthday. Sophia. His late brother's wife. Daniel swallowed hard. 3 years ago, he had stood at a graveside holding his 5-year-old daughter Emma while watching his older brother's coffin lower into the earth. Cancer had stolen Aaron in less than 8 months. 8 brutal, unfair months. Since then, everything changed. Sophia moved across town. She stopped coming to Sunday dinners. She stopped calling. And Daniel, he didn't know how to fix that distance without feeling like he was stepping into territory that didn't belong to him. But Emma tugged on his sleeve that afternoon. "Daddy, we're going to Aunt Sophia's party." Daniel looked down at his daughter, the only bright light in the darkness that followed his brother's death. He forced a smile. "Yeah. We're going." The party was at a lakeside house Sophia had rented for the weekend. Soft lights wrapped around trees. Music floated gently in the air. Laughter echoed across the water. Daniel felt like an outsider stepping into someone else's life. Sophia looked different. Stronger. Confident. Her black dress shimmered under the lights. But her eyes, those eyes, still carried something unspoken. When she saw Daniel, she froze for half a second. Then she smiled. "You came." Emma ran forward first. "Happy birthday, Aunt Sophia." Sophia knelt and hugged her tightly, longer than usual. Daniel noticed. Throughout the night, Daniel stayed mostly by the drink table. Watching. Thinking. Wondering if he should have stayed home. Then came the moment. Sophia walked up to him while everyone was distracted by the cake. "Can we talk?" she asked softly. They stepped away from the lights toward the dock. The water was still. The moon reflected like a broken mirror. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she leaned closer. And whispered. "I can't do this alone anymore." Daniel frowned slightly. "What do you mean?" She hesitated. Then she said something that made his heart stop. "I'm pregnant." Silence. The world didn't just pause, it shattered. Daniel blinked. That's not possible." Her voice trembled. "It's Aaron's." His breath caught. Aaron had passed 3 years ago. Sophia looked down at the water. "We froze embryos before the chemo. I never told anyone. I tried to move on, but I couldn't. And last year, I decided to try." Daniel stepped back slightly. "You're having my brother's child." "Yes." "And you're telling me now?" Her eyes filled. "Because I need you." The air between them changed. Daniel's heart raced, not from anger, but from something deeper. Fear. Responsibility. Memory. She wasn't just carrying a baby. She was carrying the last piece of his brother. And suddenly, this birthday party didn't feel like a celebration. It felt like destiny rearranging itself. Sophia took a breath. But that's not the unthinkable part. Daniel's chest tightened. "What else is there?" She looked him directly in the eyes. "I want you to help me raise this baby." The dock felt unsteady beneath him. "Your family," she continued. "Emma deserves to know her cousin. And I? I trust you more than anyone." Daniel's mind spiraled. Help raise his brother's child? Be there every day? Build a life intertwined with hers again? He didn't know what scared him more, the responsibility, or the way his heart reacted when she said she trusted him. Because somewhere along the line, grief had turned into something else. Something dangerous. Something neither of them had dared to name. And standing there under the moonlight, Daniel realized this wasn't just about a baby. It was about second chances. And lines that were never meant to blur. Pause here in your narration, let the music swell slightly. If this story is touching your heart so far, don't forget to subscribe. Because what happens next will change everything. Daniel didn't sleep that night. Emma was curled beside him in bed, unaware of the storm inside her father's chest. His brother's voice echoed in his memory. Take care of them if anything ever happens to me. It had been a joke. Until it wasn't. The next morning, Daniel returned to the lake house. Sophia was alone on the porch, barefoot, holding a cup of coffee. You came back, she said quietly. I couldn't leave it like that. She nodded. They sat in silence. Then Daniel finally asked the question weighing on him. Why me? Sophia stared out at the water. Because you loved him the way I did. Because Emma deserves family. And because, when I picture raising this baby, you're the only person I see standing next to me. That last sentence hit differently. Daniel felt it. Not obligation. Not duty. Something deeper. Are you asking me to co-parent, he asked carefully, or are you asking me to replace him? Her eyes snapped toward him. No one can replace Aaron. The firmness in her voice settled something inside him. I don't want a replacement, she continued. I want someone who understands. Daniel exhaled slowly. You know what people will say. A faint smile touched her lips. People always talk. Weeks passed. Doctor visits. Nursery plans. Quiet dinners. Emma grew excited about becoming a big cousin. And Daniel found himself laughing again. One evening, as they painted the baby's room pale blue, Sophia stepped back and smiled. Thank you, she whispered. For what? For not running. Daniel looked at her, really looked at her. Not as his brother's widow. Not as a responsibility. But as a woman who had survived heartbreak and chosen hope. You're not alone anymore, he said softly. The words hung between them. And then it happened. Not dramatic. Not planned. She stepped closer. He didn't move away. Their hands brushed. Electric. Dangerous. Human. For a split second, guilt flashed through his chest. But then he remembered something. Love isn't betrayal. It's not theft. It's not disloyalty to the dead. It's proof that life continues. Sophia searched his face. Tell me this isn't wrong, she whispered. Daniel swallowed. It's complicated. She gave a small laugh. That's not what I asked. He stepped closer. It's not wrong, if it's real. And in that quiet, paint-scented room, surrounded by the future, they allowed themselves to feel something they had both buried under grief. Not because they were trying to replace Aaron. But because Aaron had taught them how to love deeply. Months later, as Sophia held her newborn son, Aaron James, Daniel stood beside her. Emma clutched her new cousin's tiny hand. And Daniel realized something profound. This wasn't a betrayal of his brother. It was the continuation of his legacy. Family doesn't break when someone dies. It reshapes. And sometimes, it whispers something unthinkable. Not to destroy you, but to rebuild you. If this story moved you even a little, if you believe in second chances, If you believe love can grow from loss, the hospital room was quiet except for the soft rhythm of the monitor. Aaron James slept peacefully in Sophia's arms. Emma sat beside Daniel, tracing tiny circles on her baby cousin's blanket. For a moment, everything felt right. Too right. Daniel had learned something about life over the past few years. When things feel peaceful, it usually means a storm is coming. And the storm came 3 weeks later. It started with a knock at the door. Daniel wasn't expecting anyone. Sophia was upstairs putting the baby to sleep. When he opened the door, his stomach dropped. It was Margaret. Aaron and Daniel's mother. She hadn't visited much since the pregnancy announcement. She had congratulated them politely, smiled thinly, left quickly. But today, she didn't look polite. She looked shaken. "We need to talk," she said. Daniel stepped aside. She walked into the living room, her eyes scanning the baby photos on the wall. The nursery door. Emma's drawings taped to the fridge. "You moved fast," she muttered. "What's wrong, Mom?" Daniel asked carefully. Margaret turned toward him. "I went to the fertility clinic." Daniel's chest tightened. "Why?" Her voice trembled, not with anger, with fear. Because something didn't feel right. Upstairs, a soft creak sounded. Sophia was coming down the stairs slowly, holding the baby monitor. She froze when she saw Margaret. The air changed instantly. Margaret looked at Sophia. "You told us the embryos were Aaron's." Sophia swallowed. "They were." Margaret shook her head. "They were fertilized." "Yes. But they weren't all Aaron's." Silence. Daniel felt his pulse in his throat. "What are you saying?" he whispered. Margaret's voice cracked. There was a mix-up. The word echoed like glass shattering. Sophia's face drained of color. "No," she whispered. "That's impossible." The clinic admitted it, Margaret continued. "One of the samples was mislabeled 3 years ago." Daniel's legs felt weak. "You're saying," he couldn't finish. Margaret looked directly at him. "The baby might not be Aaron's." The room felt like it was collapsing inward. Sophia shook her head, stepping back as if physically struck. "No. No, that's not true. I confirmed everything before the procedure." "They are asking for DNA testing," Margaret said quietly. The baby monitor crackled softly upstairs, a reminder of the innocent life sleeping above them. Daniel turned to Sophia. Her eyes were wide. Hurt. Confused. Terrified. "I would never," she whispered. "I would never lie about this." "I know," Daniel said instantly. And he meant it. Margaret exhaled shakily. "If that child isn't Aaron's, this changes everything." Daniel turned slowly toward his mother. "No," he said firmly. "It doesn't." Margaret blinked. "You don't know that." "Yes, I do." Because in that moment, Daniel realized something powerful. It didn't matter whose DNA ran through that baby's veins. He had been there. The doctor visits. The sleepless nights. The nursery paint on his hands. The first cry in the hospital room. Fatherhood isn't just biology. It's presence. Sophia's voice broke. "What if he's not Aaron's?" she whispered. "What if I built this whole future on a mistake?" Daniel stepped closer to her. "Then we build a new one." Margaret stared at him. "You're willing to accept another man's child?" Daniel looked at her steadily. "I already have." The Words landed heavy. Emma stepped forward quietly and slipped her hand into Sophia's. "I don't care whose baby he is," she said softly. "He's my cousin." Margaret's expression faltered. For the first time, doubt crossed her certainty. Days later, the DNA results arrived. Sophia couldn't open the envelope. Her hands shook too much. Daniel took it gently. This piece of paper held the power to redefine grief all over again. He unfolded it. Read silently. Then looked up. Tears filled his eyes. Sophia's breath stopped. "Well," she whispered. Daniel stepped toward her and smiled through tears. "His errands." Sophia collapsed into his arms, sobbing, not from doubt anymore. From relief. Margaret covered her mouth, overcome. But something had shifted. Not because of the result, but because of what Daniel had realized before opening it. He was ready to love that child regardless. And that was the real transformation. Later that night, after Margaret had left and Emma was asleep, Sophia stood beside Daniel on the porch. "You didn't hesitate," she said quietly. "About what?" "About staying. Even if he wasn't Aaron's." Daniel looked at the stars. 3 years ago, I lost my brother. I'm not losing another family over biology. Sophia studied him carefully. "You're not doing this out of obligation anymore, are you?" Daniel turned to her. "No." He stepped closer. "I'm doing it because I love you." The words hung between them, vulnerable and real. Not rushed. Not born from grief. But from shared rebuilding. Sophia's eyes filled again. "Say it again," she whispered. "I love you." This time, there was no guilt. No shadow. No comparison to the past. Only the future. Inside the house, Aaron James stirred softly in his crib. Life. Continuing. Not replacing. Not erasing. But expanding. And Daniel finally understood something that had taken him years to learn. Love doesn't divide loyalty. It multiplies it. His brother's memory wasn't threatened. It was honored, through protection, through presence, through courage. And sometimes, the most unthinkable whispers aren't scandals. They are second chances disguised as fear. If you believe family is more than blood, if you believe love can survive loss,